Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Late Night Leos. I'll be your host, Morgan from Thor Gecko. Tonight, I have Rosemere Reptiles on. How you guys doing? Why don't you tell everybody your names and a little bit about each of you?
Okay, well, my name is Shelley. I'm co-owner of Rosemere Reptiles, along with my husband, Barry.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. So, were you into reptiles before you met, or is that something that you were like, hey, we're married, we need to start a business, and let's do reptiles? Or how did it go with you guys?
Well, it's kind of a funny story because when we first met, I had two very young children, and I find it's pretty common for little kids at a certain age to be into reptiles, because I guess they kind of remind them of dinosaurs. And my two girls wanted some form of reptile for their birthday. And I did a little bit of research, and, I was told it was really best to start off with a crested gecko because, very, very easy care and not having to worry about any kind of heat source. So I went home and told my husband, I said, look, I'm thinking about getting the girls each a reptile, a crested gecko for their birthdays. And he kind of looked at me and said, no. And I said, yes, I'm doing it. And we ended up with we got two crested geckos. They were young, and we didn't know the gender, and it ended up being a male and a female. And one day I came home and found some eggs, and I looked at my husband and I said, we have these eggs. And he's a really he's a business guy. He likes to start businesses, build businesses, and saw the eggs and said, okay, maybe we can do something with this. So that's basically how Rosemere Reptiles was born in 2012.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then about 3 years ago, I guess now,
yeah,
we bought one of the largest breeders in Quebec. They wanted to close their doors, and they were exclusively Sykes line Leos, which I really liked. I had bought a few from them. I really got into the Leos, and actually my wife prefers the Cresteds. I prefer the Leos, but they're both nice. We like them both. So I bought I bought that breeder, and we kind of tripled our size overnight. We've been just going from there, buying more and more breeders. And
cool.
Yeah,
Who was that closed up?
They were called, they're over here in Quebec, they were called Gecko Rive Sud, and they were the only breeder out here in our area, or almost, I wouldn't say all of Canada, but I would say pretty close, that carried exclusively Steve Sykes line in their collection. And they acquired those. Steve Sykes was actually at the biggest expo of the year in Toronto. He was actually there 2 years in a row, selling his geckos, and they took advantage of being in Toronto and picking up, not having to pay the import charges from California, because it's expensive to have geckos shipped into Canada from the States. The import charges alone are just it's really not worth it, unless you're buying like a Black Knight or a Black Pearl or something like that. Yeah. So they did that, and then about a year later, they approached us to basically buy them out. And seeing that we were so impressed with the Sykes line genetics, the quality, we didn't hesitate. It's something that we really wanted to carry in our collection.
Nice. Yeah. I'm here in California with Steve, and he's just got amazing animals. And he's one of the few people that, were able to turn it into a thriving business, because leopard geckos is pretty hit and miss.
Yeah, for sure. But no, he's got those He's got some really nice morphs. Like we're the only breeder in Canada right now who has the Sunburst tangerine.
Yeah.
I know there's a few in the States that I speak to on a semi-regular basis that do carry the Sunburst. We're the first, and I would say still the only one in Canada who is working with the Sunburst morph.
Nice. Yeah, that's a really, really cool looking tangerine. So you also have Diablo Blancos. Did those also come from the breeder, or is that something that you picked up a little later?
That was from the same breeder that had all the Steve Sykes stuff. The Diablo Blanco came, they came with that package deal. But I found that I ran into a few small problems with the Diablo Blanco project this year. I didn't realize that somebody told me that there were a lot of kind of counterfeit or fake Diablo Blancos out there.
Oh yeah.
They have a fake eclipse.
Yeah.
And can't really tell unless until you breed them. So I took a pair, bred them. I thought I was going to get 100% Diablo Blancos, and I ended up with a lot of eclipses, a lot of snake eyes. So that kind of put a little damper on our project. We got a few. I ended up getting 4 Diablo Blanco babies out of that entire pairing. So that was a little disappointing.
Yeah, it's becoming a huge problem here where a lot of Diablo Blancos are really just blazing blizzards with the false eclipse eye. So that's interesting that you guys are running into that up there also.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so I ended up with 4 real Diablo Blancos. So we ended up keeping 2 for ourselves for this year's breeding season, and a friend of ours, Mack, we sold one to him because that was he really, really wanted one. And then we sold one to another customer who, she was on a waiting, the first one on the waiting list. So she was able to pick one of those up too. But I still have a waiting list going this year too for the Diablo Blancos. So I hope our project works out.
Yeah, I bet that there's a waiting list. It seems like that's one of the morphs that's always in high demand. No matter how many get produced, people are just all over that. Is selling leopard geckos an issue in Canada? Because I talk to a lot of people that ask me, who is a good Canadian breeder? And until recently, I didn't know any Canadian breeders besides Urban Gecko.
Right, in Toronto. Yeah. It's not, we've never had an issue selling leopard geckos, but we find that over here in the province of Quebec, the market's a little different. It's a lot tighter, so you can't really ask the same price for a leopard gecko, or really any kind of gecko or reptile for that matter, as you would in Ontario and the other provinces, and especially in the States. Like, we're selling, the market value. I know you guys can probably get like $300 to $400 for a Sunburst. Like, we probably, we're getting $200 right now for the Sunburst. It's not the same kind of market at all.
Yeah, that's still, I mean, I don't know how much you guys invested into that, but that's still good money considering, I'm starting to see a lot of radars and, I know you guys are working with the black holes. I'm starting to see those here in America coming up on wholesale lists. So,
yeah,
I love anything that'll get me a couple $100 for just one gecko.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You do still, you get, some money for it, but it's kind of frustrating when you hear, when we talk to our American contacts, American breeders, and they're like, oh, well, I sell my Sunburst for $400, and, and then you turn around and say, well, I wish I could get $400 for mine, so you have to kind of go with the market, but then you don't want to ask, not enough money because you bring the rest of the market down. So that's another one too.
Yeah, you got to be careful with the price.
Yeah. Yeah, and on the subject of wholesale, do you guys do that? Because I know a lot of, I mean, myself included, when you're breeding a high volume of animals and you have specific high-end projects, there's, you know, you might end up with 200 or 300 of just like random scraps, I guess you would call them, you know, mixed morphs and het, triple, quad het. Do you guys do wholesale up there in Canada?
No, we don't. I mean, there were a few times that we sold like normals or wilds to you know a store, like a pet store or whatever. But we really haven't had the need to really do that. We've had no problem.
Our business has been good actually. We're having a hard time keeping geckos in stock. I've been on a rampage in the last 2 months. I've been on a rampage buying out as many breeders as I can find in the area, just making them an offer and taking all their stock because we're having a hard time keeping up with the demand. It's a good problem to have, but
no problem.
Business has been good. We've made a name for ourselves, and people come. We actually operate out of our house. We've got over 300 geckos in the basement, and it's a really nice setup. I think there's a video on our Facebook page.
Yeah, no, we have a professional breeder set up, and I think we're going to have to either get one of the kids to move out of the house or something to take over their bedroom, expanding, or...
we did an open house over the spring break weekend, and that was quite successful. People came in, and we're getting quite the reputation. People are starting to know. In fact, a lot of people know who we are now. It's becoming more of a household name, which was my goal when I started going into this, whole hog and starting investing money.
That's amazing. I wish that we could still do something like that here in the States because, there's not a lot of places where people don't have access to it. Any kind of gecko that you want, you can pretty much get. So you guys are very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of breeders around, or at least not a lot of big breeders or decent breeders. There's some wholesalers around. There's a lot of small, what I call artisanal breeders. They're doing it as hobbyists.
Yeah.
They have, under 25 geckos, I would say, or in that range. Be a hobbyist breeder, and there's a few of those, and those are the ones I've been, contacting and buying out, or we've set up a deal with a couple of them recently where they don't want to get rid of all their geckos, but they're feeding us their baby cresteds because we're having a hard time keeping cresteds in inventory as well. So, and now we're branching off into 2 other projects. We're starting with African fattails and
the Chaua. We're starting with the Chaua geckos as well. So we've got we're going to be like a big breeder of 4 different kinds of geckos. So not just the leopard, but I think our biggest breeding collection though is definitely leopard geckos.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's more than half our collection is leopards.
Yeah. No, they're always a big seller. They're we've had no problem selling them.
They're a beautiful gecko, and they're because they're the Steve Sykes line. They're much larger than the typical leopard geckos you would see normally. Plus, we take really good care of them, so they're very healthy. And we go to shows all the time, and people come over and they're asking us if they're giants or super giants because of their size, and we're like, nope, they're just normal, large Steve Sykes line geckos. They're very big and healthy.
There's a huge difference in the quality between just like a gecko that you would buy at a pet store or from, I would say a smaller breeder versus because we have both. When we first started, before we bought out the other breeder, we had just a couple of geckos, leopard geckos we picked up from other breeders, and they were nice, they were good, they were fine. But when we started working and breeding the Sykes line, even just the difference in the hatchlings, the babies, as soon as they came out of the egg, it was like 4 times the size of like the other babies hatched out of the egg, just like incredible.
I call them the Arnold Schwarzenegger line of leopard geckos.
Oh yeah, and we had there was one guy. He was really funny. It was one of the last expos that we did a couple of months ago, and he had picked up a leopard gecko from another vendor that we know. Like we bought a couple of his geckos when we first started, and the guy picked up the gecko from that vendor, and then he came over and looked at our leopard geckos, and he looked at our leopard geckos. He looked at his little gecko in his belly cup, and then he looked back at our leopard geckos, and I can't say exactly what he said on the radio, but like it was just like a French like
he should have done the whole room before he made it.
Yeah. It was
And it was the same birth date. I showed him one with the same birth date, and the gecko was our gecko was twice the size of his, and it had the exact same birth date.
Yeah, same date of birth. It was just like 3 times as big there as his, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I love Steve's stuff. I've got plenty of it here. It almost seems like if you've been breeding long enough, then maybe like 90% of your collection comes from Steve at some point.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know. I find that sometimes people ask us to buy, their leopard geckos because they want to go out of business. And I'm at the point where it's like, if it's not like Steve Sykes' line, I'm like really not very interested, because we're so used to the big genetics, the powerhouse geckos that, nothing else really compares. I'm not going to say that, okay, everything else is not nice, but, when you get used to genetics and his, the quality, I guess we're a little spoiled now.
Yeah,
and we
I'm
like
sure
the Raptors, and we want to keep that. So.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the people listening understand what you mean, because I mean, especially here in America where we have, we don't have the crazy customs fees. It's like $45 to get it shipped from Steve, and so everybody pretty much has,
Right.
Yeah, I saw that in a lot of the leopard gecko groups. I guess there's a lot, mostly Americans in there, and I see some people saying, "Oh, I got this from Steve, and it's like $45 for the shipping." Like, I wish, because we would really like to get hands on a Godzilla, and I looked at site, and it's like, look into the customs fees. It's like you're paying more than what you're paying for the gecko, and just the import fees, the paper stuff. So, and we're always worried about, okay, is it guaranteed live arrival or not? Is there a chance that it's going to show up and, it's going to be suffocated inside the box or whatever? So, there's always that issue too. I mean, we've been approached from Leroy, the leopard geckos in Europe, to buy his Black Knight. That was a whole other thing. He basically wanted to sell them as a group, and I think he gave me the price in euro, so I had to go and do the conversion there on Google, and it ended up being like $12 for like a group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds about right.
The problem with that is the market here, the market in this province is just not there. So to make that kind of investment would be purely for us just to have it in our collection and with no intention of selling it, or because if I bred them to sell them, I would drop the price so much just to get somebody to buy it that, Oh
yeah, and the guy was really poking us because he hadn't yet broken into the Canadian market. He said, I have, I think, two breeders in the United States that I got started. And he said, I would really love for you guys to be the first in Canada. And, we did discuss it, and we said, okay, if we get into this, we'll be the first in Canada to have a Black Knight.
Yeah.
But then you invest that kind of money. You pay $2,000 for a gecko, or you pay $50 for a gecko. You have the same risk of, your rack overheating and by accident and your gecko dying You know what I mean? So there's always the risk of that. And, you know, like my husband just said, you go and you breed, and then people are like, oh, yeah, it's so beautiful, I want one. You tell them the price, nobody wants to pay it. So, you know, and we had the same kind of issue with the Sunburst, too. We went and we said, oh, yeah, the Sunburst, they're gorgeous. We're Canadian exclusive. We're the only ones to have. And so we went ahead and bred the Sunburst. You know, I put them on the Facebook page. Everyone's oohing and awing over them, you know, the electric orange color. And then when I tell them the price, they're like, yeah, it's too expensive. It's beautiful, but it's too expensive. So, you know, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm sure it's pretty difficult up there, you know. If it wasn't, then there would be a bigger following of larger leopard gecko breeders. But I've wondered, because, you know, here in America we have states, and you guys have like all the different provinces. Do you have to pay customs fees to go between the provinces, or is it like a state where they just look at it, make sure it's not drugs, and you're cool?
No. We can drive our beer across provinces as well as our geckos. So.
Yeah. There's no inter-province borders there. It's the same as you guys in the States. You can, you know, drive right through, and
That's
you
cool.
don't bring your. Yeah.
Unless you're in California like me, then we've got borders in California.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's because they've got all these beetles and stuff that eats all the trees, and no fruits and vegetables over the border, and animals, and yeah.
Right.
But
we don't.
That's just
we don't have any other issues. Not yet, anyway. I don't know.
That's cool.
Yeah, we just can't have dubia. We're not allowed to have dubia up here. Those are illegal.
Really?
Yeah, dubia roaches are illegal.
Yeah, they're illegal in Canada and Florida. And the thing is, everybody wants them because apparently, you know, the leopard geckos love them. And I heard that crested geckos will do too. And we just cannot get them up here. They're like, I guess, the Canadian government considers them like, they don't want an accidental, like, infestation of them.
Yeah.
So all roaches are illegal, except, like, strictly for, like, educational purposes. If you have a museum or a zoo or something, have it. But as breeders, we're not allowed to have them. So, which really sucks. Because I'm sure those would go over pretty well.
Yeah. I mean, I understand Florida because of their climate, but I would never. I mean, we always think stereotypical Canada's frozen, you know, with all the snow.
It's
so I don't.
Still frozen. It's still frozen now. We're almost in mid-April, and we're still wearing our parkas and our boots, and there's still snow everywhere. It's kind of depressing. But.
Yeah, so I wouldn't understand why they would. Huh?
We get some pretty hot summers, though.
Yeah, but I mean, everything would die off, right?
For sure, in the winter, everything would die off. I don't know. I don't know what roaches do. I am not a roach expert. Do they hibernate in the winter, or I don't know.
No, because we don't understand. Know. Yeah, no, we didn't understand that either when people were discussing it and saying, okay, I understand Florida, you know, it's hot and humid, and the more hot and humid it is, the more the dubias will breed and, you know, possibly infest. And in Canada, I mean, most of the time it's so cold except for the summers that when the winter comes around, they will die off. They're not going to survive these kind of winters. There's no way that...
we barely survived.
Yeah, barely survived the winters too. But, yeah.
It's kind of funny when you think about it. Like, if you think about it from someone that doesn't keep reptiles' point of view, you got like thousands of people calling the government asking, why can't I keep and breed cockroaches?
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No wonder they think we're crazy. So I guess let's talk about. I've got a whole list of your projects here. You've got all kinds of giant stuff, and I know you got them from Steve Sykes. And where are you going with your super giant raptors? Because I see that you've also got the Mack trempers. Are you planning on doing like some super giant super raptors?
Yes. Yes, that was the whole idea. I tried to do that last season. Unfortunately, all my supergiant eggs were duds. I have no idea why. That was, I would say, one of the projects that we were the most excited about were the supergiants.
Yeah.
And basically everything we were excited about last season did not pan out. Like, we wanted to do, like, my husband's favorite morph is the Bandits, and we have several such Bandits. None of them came out. They were all duds. Supergiants, all duds. What else was really duddy? I love Super Snows. The Super Snow eggs were duds as well. So, yeah, it was a little disappointing. But, yeah, I'm going to try again with the Supergiants. Hopefully get some supergiant Raptors, in that pairing as well. Again, they're not, especially in Quebec, I don't know anyone else who has supergiants, especially, Sykes line supergiants. And everybody really seems to go for those. Everybody's looking for a giant or a supergiant. The next thing I'd like to add is Godzilla as well to our collection. So I spoke to somebody out in Alberta, one of our neighboring provinces, and I'm, possibly get a Godzilla from her. But yeah, I mean, we have a lot of projects going this year. The radars, super radar. I have a super Typhoon that I'm very excited to work with this season as well. So I don't have one project that I'm like, wow, over. We love all our animals, and we love the different breeding projects that that we do. So I don't know, what are you excited about this year? And
I'm excited about doubling the size of our business over the course of the year. I'm my wife takes care of the geckos all day long. I have other businesses that I run, and I'm kind of the financial piece behind this, and I do the bookkeeping and all that kind of stuff, and the paperwork, and I make the deals, and that's my strength. That's what I bring to the table, is the business side of it, and my goal is to try to double the size of our business in the next year. So, and we've already doubled our business last year, so I see no reason why we can't do that.
Nice. Have you guys ever thought of, hitting up Steve Sykes to bring up some specific animals when he comes to do shows?
Yes. Yeah, but we sent him, I don't know, anytime we send him I guess, you know what, he must get a high volume of messages. The guy must be bombarded with client stuff. But, I think we tried to reach out to him a couple of times. I totally understand if we got bypassed, but yeah, I would love it. Steve.
Yeah, but I don't think he comes out. He hasn't been up to a show that I'm aware of in a couple of years. Anyway. Yeah,
it's been at least 2 or 3 years that he came up to the Toronto show. That's like the biggest reptile breeder expo in Canada, apparently, and he was there 2 years in a row selling a lot of his stuff. That's how he kind of like got into the Canadian market without anyone having to pay those import fees. So yeah, I would love to hit him up and get some stuff, like I mentioned before, the Godzilla. I mean, I would love to get more Super Snows, and he has such amazing stuff. Like you look on his website and you're like just in awe of what he has. It's like, wow, and anything giant, anything super giant, anything is.
Yeah, and they're so nice too. They're very calm. They're very friendly.
Oh, the supergiants? Yeah. Their characters.
They have really good characters. Kind of like a big dog, The bigger the dog, the calmer they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would be great. Maybe I can message Steve and have his Jasmine as his person that answers the emails. I'll have her give you guys the email if you're really serious about, picking up a nice size collection, because that would be, I'm sure it would be great for Steve too, because he likes the sales. But to get
who does.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. That would be great.
You can hook us up with him. It'd be great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, we are at the end of the show. So do you guys have a YouTube or anything that you want to shout out, or the Facebook page?
Yeah, we have our main business hub is on Facebook. It's Rosemere Reptiles on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So facebook.com/Rosemere Reptiles.
Yep.
And people can go and actually like the page. That would be awesome.
If you're wondering what Rosemere is, it's the name of the town we live in.
We're 20 minutes north of Montreal.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah,
And
so
have you guys thought doing the YouTube?
Yeah.
You mean like putting videos up on YouTube, or?
Yeah, like doing YouTube videos, how you care for them, stuff like that. Because I know people love that, and that's also that's a big way that I got connected to getting Canadian breeders on the show is through my YouTube. So.
Yeah, all the time. It's something we discuss at least once a week, saying, you know what, we've got to start making video.
Yep.
We've got to start making videos.
Well, we did. We made a video of when I reshuffled the gecko room a few weeks ago, and in preparation for the open house we did, and I bought another rack system from a breeder in Ottawa, which is about 2 hours from here. And I set all that up, and we did a video of all that, and we posted that on our site. But, yeah.
No, I'd like to do more like care videos and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's something, one of those projects you always talk about but, never do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we've been kind of busy. So
yeah.
300 geckos keeps you hopping.
But it's definitely something, yes, that we would like definitely to do.
Especially educational videos, because I find, we do a lot of the trade shows, and you find you get a lot of the same questions over and over again. And so people need to know. And when we sell a gecko, we make sure that we provide, as much information as we can, and we offer basically 24/7 lifetime support with all our geckos. So, Shelley has no life. She's on Facebook literally all the time, answering clients' questions, which is good, because we would rather they ask questions. We care about the animals, and we don't like bad things happening, and then the client says, well, we would have rather that they contact us and we can help them before it becomes an issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Those kind of videos would be very helpful, and we do need to do it. So
okay, let's do it.
Okay, we'll do it.
Let's do it. Let's work on it this week.
Done.
Okay.
Done.
Awesome.
We're doing it.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on, and we should have you on again at the end of the year to find out what you hatched out and how your projects are going. Okay?
That would be great. Thanks a lot for having us. We really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Take care. Bye.
All right. Bye.